Michale Malice was on the Tim Pool podcast and talked about why he thinks Kamala Harris won't win. It's really interesting. Take a look.
You think he's going to win?
I think Trump has in the bag. And here's my reasoning, because I think it's very important as far as possible to get your emotions out of political analysis, right? And for me, the best indicator of future behavior is past performance. In 2020, she had her honeymoon period. In her first debate, she came out, Biden, you're a racist. That little girl was me. Goes up in the polls. Tulsi comes along, not only she have not a response on the stage, Officer Harris, but then when Anderson Cooper, hardly some kind of alt-right freak, is like, what happened to the debate? She goes, well, I'm a top-tier candidate, so... And it's like, what? That's your answer?
Respond to the question
and then she collapsed and was down to 1% and she didn't even make it to Iowa. And here's the other thing. Let's suppose she is the perfect candidate and Trump is the worst candidate. I wouldn't wish on anyone to put together a presidential campaign in 100 days. That's not a thing. That's a nightmare.
Oh, right.
So I think he has in the bag.
So Michale is touching on something that I've talked about since before Kamala Harris even replaced Joe Biden, which is that her turnout is going to be historically low. And I'm saying historically based on past elections like 2016, not even 2020, because 2020, I think it'll be obviously historically low from 2020 because they changed all the rules. So there were a lot more people voting because of mail-in ballots. I think it will be obviously historically low from 2020, but I'm talking about even before those rules changed. 100 days, it might, so like he was saying, she has 100 days to run this campaign. 100 days might be enough for people who are super politically activated, which means the people who are already going to vote for her, maybe like a little bit of independence. But for the majority of people, it's just not enough time. It's literally 100 days is just not that much time to actually get your message out, to brand yourself enough. And this could be a massive mistake for Democrats because the polls are not, they show Kamala Harris a little bit ahead, but the problem that she has is that it's not even up to the popular vote. Well, you're seeing in the polls right now, she's up by maybe 3%, which that's in the popular vote, not the electoral college. So 3% is really not very much. And then of course you consider the fact that polling always favors Democrats. And it's really not looking great for her in the polls. But again, assuming the polls are correct and assuming that they're bad for Donald Trump, polls only take into account who someone would vote for. Again, if you're voting today, this is the question, right? If you're voting today, are you voting for Kamala Harris or Donald Trump? And you choose one. But it doesn't mean that you actually voted. It doesn't mean that you showed up to the polling booth, or if you have mail-in ballots in your states, it doesn't mean you actually took the time to fill out the ballot and do it. So imagine this scenario. In this scenario, there's a sizable amount of Americans who don't like Trump. There are even lots of Americans who are really dumb, they're stupid, and they think Kamala Harris would be better than Biden on most things. They're literally saying that she's going to fix the border, the economy, even though she's literally the vice president. Let's just say there's a huge group of Americans hate Trump. They're really stupid on that, and they've allowed the media to tell them these things and they believe them. Those people get their ballots mailed out to them and they just forget to fill them out. They forget. Or they have to go in person and they simply don't do it because they have work, they've got kids, they've got bad weather, emergencies, they're too hungry that day so they want to go to the restaurant instead of the booth. Any list of those things could keep them from voting, and I think that this is the scenario we're looking at. I'm talking about just people on the left / in the middle right now. A huge group of people who don't like Trump. I actually think that there's a lot of people, ton of stupid people who are going to buy into the media. Unfortunately, I really do believe that there are people like that. But does that mean that they're actually going to vote? I really don't think so because Kamala Harris really doesn't excite people that much. Juxtapose that now with a Trump voter. This voter in this scenario is pissed off at Biden. They wanted to buy a new house, but it costs literally 39% more than other houses. They know exactly who Trump is because he's been president or he's been running to be president for the last decade. Everyone knows who Donald Trump is. People don't really know who Kamala Harris is. If there's a freaking hurricane outside of their house, they're still going to go and vote for Donald Trump because people who are pissed about what's happening right now are pissed and they want to change. People who think Kamala Harris might make a change, they're not convinced that Kamala Harris is going to make a change. They're just like, oh yeah, and a pollster asks them who they're voting for, they say Kamala Harris. And so I am more and more convinced that Trump is going to have the enthusiasm on his side. And even though the polling might even be accurate, where the majority of Americans would vote for Kamala Harris, I don't think that people are excited by Kamala Harris. And I don't think that they're going to actually show up to vote when it comes down to it. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Please go down below, comment, like, and subscribe, and watch another video.